Have you been drinking, Dana?
Not so as you'd notice, because I f*** up this much when I'm sober. So welcome to Damnit Jim, the podcast. A fun and fascinating look at the very influential Star Trek, the original series. My name is Dana Smith, and I'm proud to be your navigator on this journey. And with me, as always, our recently promoted Rear Admiral of Sarcasm, my good friend, Dan Calzaretta. Good evening, Dan.
Dana, you should get a promotion. You really need a promotion. I mean, navigator's a fine job. It's necessary.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's like, we got some room. I'll get a promotion in here sooner or later.
Okay, good. You deserve one. I think our fans would agree.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Before we dive into to this whole show,
yeah,
there was some sad news today. I don't know if you saw this. Barbara Baldwin passed away at age 85. She's the one that played Officer Angela Martine in 2 of the first season episodes.
Oh, yeah.
On the first one, she was getting married.
Yeah.
And with Captain Kirk presiding, and it was interrupted by a Romulan attack, and that was the episode, Those Damn Romulans.
I can't remember the episode, but I remember the show, yeah, but I don't remember the name of the episode. She
later returned as Lieutenant Lisa, a communications officer and court reporter on the series finale, which we haven't gotten to, the wonderful Turnabout Intruder. She was in there for 3 episodes, and she passed away today.
Wow, that's unfortunate. Because we had her booked for next week. It's sad.
Finally got somebody to agree to be on the show from Star Trek, the original series, and they fucking die.
Well, that might have been what pushed her over the edge. God, she was doing so well. What?
Yeah.
She ran 5 miles a day. We heard that she was just booked on some podcast, and then she keeled over.
Yeah, shortly after the phone call that they accepted her.
That's sad, though. It is.
It really is. Mm-hmm. So, Dan, do you want to dive into the listener comments? Was there anything else you want to talk about before we go in?
No, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about in the listener comments, so let's just go right into it.
Okay. On Facebook, Mary Mack said, "They're all dead." And she showed the laughing emoji. She says, "I don't like this episode much, but your podcast was great."
That was nice.
Yeah, I think that's the first time she's written to us.
Yeah, I don't remember that name. Yeah.
Our old friend Brian Kavanaugh said, "Terrific episode. The best episodes are the one that hits softly with a hard truth at the very end." And of course, we're talking about Let That Be Your Last Battlefield.
Yeah, not the podcast episode, apparently.
Yeah, because it never hits softly, and there's hardly any truth anywhere in it. So.
That's true.
Our old Canadian friend Lou Israel said, "Dan, great job saying they're all dead." And he said, "Lou Antonio is still alive, turning 90, so you should get him on the show." Then he said, "Fantastic job on this, guys. I laughed until I stopped."
Well, we both said they're all dead, Dana. It wasn't just me.
Yeah, well, you get credit for things I don't get credit for. You know what I mean? So I think I said it first, even. But
you probably did, yeah.
But there you go. Mm-hmm. That's how uneven this all is. And you're a rear admiral, and I'm just a lowly navigator. So
to become a rear admiral, you got to kiss a lot of ass, Dana. That's just how it is.
Hence the name. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Bill Luking said, "I can only imagine poor Frank Gorshin wearing his Riddler tights on Batman and getting cast in this episode in even worse tights. Typecasting at its worst." I think what he meant to say was tight casting.
Oh, that's it, Dana. Tight casting. Yeah, they were bad tights, but he was awesome in that episode.
William Bing Ingram said, "Those aliens must get enraged every time they look in the mirror." Think about it.
Oh, yes.
I like that comment.
That's a great comment. It took me a second, Dana.
Yeah.
I'll edit out the pause, though, to make it look like I got it right away.
Yeah. When I first read it, I was like, what? And I was, oh, my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Karen Babshia said, "A reminder that nothing good comes from deep hatred."
Wow, way to bring us down.
Yeah. Daryl Reed said this was my least favorite of my favorite show. And then finally, we had Steve Hoza, who said, one of my favorites. Unfortunately, it is still relevant.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is absolutely true.
So, Dan, do we have any other comments, emails, phone messages?
Yeah, Dana, we got some voicemails and some YouTube comments. From YouTube, I have to say, Dana, we hit a milestone.
Yeah?
Yeah. We received the most comments ever for one of our episodes that we posted on YouTube for whom gods destroy. And most of them were because of a typo. So, Dana, remember for the Alon of Troyes, how I added the mistakenly, and you said it wasn't a typo, which really it wasn't, Dana. I mean, you were right about that. Well, for this episode, in the title on YouTube for whom gods destroy, I wrote who instead of whom. I had the title correct in the show description. We said it right in the podcast, but the fucking grammar police, some loyal listeners pointed out that it should be whom. Starting with AJ Mittendorf, who wrote, it's whom, not who. Speaking as a fan and as an English professor, I give you failing mark, thumbs down for that error. Messing up the quote or a title when it's right there in front of you is an egregious error. Okay, error, yes, Dana. Egregious. I mean, egregious errors, let's say, I don't know, you turn left at a red light and you T-bone somebody and someone dies. That's egregious.
I would agree with you.
I guess someone has to put us grammar idiots in our place.
I appreciate it. I got a laugh out of that. So, I mean, I appreciate that.
Dana, since we received the most views and comments on any episode, I think I will continue to make typos so people whom want to criticize us can do so and hopefully feel better about themselves.
It's a hard world out there, Dan, and people got to lift themselves up any way they can. So
yeah, do I sound bitter, Dana? I mean, who knows? Sorry, whom knows? All right, then Olaf Olafsson said about the Encore episode, What Are Little Girls Made Of? If we can place ourselves inside of machines, are we human? We see medical advances replacing parts of our bodies with mechanical parts. Colby replaced his entire body. Is he human?
That's a good question. Thank you, Olaf. I don't have an answer for that right now, but I'm going to ponder that.
Yeah, who knows? Whom knows? Longtime listener Olivia also commented on how anyone can use the transporter. She compared it to the self-checkout at Walmart. She wonders why, if anyone can do it, why would you need anyone in the transporter room?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Drives me freaking crazy.
I know it does. Dana, we also heard from J.D. Lewis this week about the episode, Let This Be Your Last Battlefield. J.D. says, fun fact, this episode was a rewrite of an unproduced first season script called A Portrait in Black and White, written by Barry Trivers and Gene L. Kuhn. The script was rewritten by Oliver Crawford, who, along with Margaret Arman, also helped rewrite David Gerald's The Cloudminders. Just like in that script, too many cooks spoiling the broth. Great reactions today. I can't wait for your final reactions while dreading the end at the same time. Parting is such sweet sorrow. Thanks, JD. Dana, we got quite a few phone calls, but I only have time to play two. And the first is from Ed Darlow. Here's what he has to say.
I just finished listening to Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, and it was on my way to donate plasma today. Again, I disagree with a lot of what you say, but you guys are extremely funny. You guys make a lot of jokes, and I love them. I'm just looking forward to next week's. I will be making more comments, and hopefully you'll hire me next month. Take care. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.
Well, Ed, we can be funny and wrong, and occasionally we're right and not funny. But thanks for listening, and thanks for donating plasma.
Yeah, absolutely. And we encourage all of our listeners, if you have the ability to donate blood or plasma, please do so. Next, we got a call from our friend Lou in Canada. Here's what he has to say, Dana, about how you pronounce the name of the planet.
The planet Arianis, I never thought of making it air in Uranus. It's brilliant. It's one of your better ones.
Well, thanks, Lou. It's so rare that you actually compliment us on something that's usually correcting us. And so I really appreciate that.
All right, Dana, we are going to send out some Damnit Jim the Podcast polo shirts this week. And I think we just need to keep that offer going. What do you think?
Yeah, we've got a handful of shirts left. So if people remember to call in and tell us something about the show and then leave their address at the end of their comment, we will send you a Damnit Jim polo shirt. And these are nice polo shirts.
They're very nice, yeah.
Dan, what's the number they call?
The Damnit Jim hotline is 509-676-6298.
We want to welcome our new sponsor, North Shore. North Shore offers premium incontinence products that can improve the quality of your life. Managing incontinence can feel like a no-win scenario. Local drugstores often have a lack of options or sizes, or worse yet, they have cheap products that leak.
Dana, there are nearly 72 million baby boomers in the United States, and many of them find themselves needing products to address incontinence. North Shore can help.
North Shore's products can empower you to live your life on your terms by providing maximum absorbency that allows you to be dry and confident. It allows you to be you. Shop online or request product samples at northshore.com.
And Dana, here's the best part. Our listeners can use the code KIRK at checkout to receive $10 off their next order over $50. This can be used only once per customer and may not be combined with other offers. Go to northshore.com today.
Okay, Dan, now Season 3, Episode 16, The Mark of Gideon.
Let's do it.
So we see the Enterprise circling a planet, get the captain's log starting at 5423.4. We are orbiting the planet Gideon, which is still not a member of the United Federation of Planets. The treaty negotiations have been difficult because Gideon has consistently refused the presence of a delegation from the Federation on its soil.
Then why bother, Dana?
Yeah, if they don't want to be part of it, don't force it.
Right.
So it says, and they've refused any surveillance by the ship's sensors.
That's never a good sign, Dana, right?
Yeah, well, half time the ship sensors aren't right anyway, so it's...
I mean, it's kind of like when you're, at home and you're trying to peek in your neighbor's house and they always have the curtains drawn. I mean, what's going on with that? They're up to something.
Yeah, I just go knock on the door. Say, hey, can you open up your curtains? So they have finally agreed to a delegation of one. They insist it be the captain of the Enterprise. I am, therefore, beaming down at once.
Sketchy.
Yeah, something's not right, Dan.
Yeah, nothing's going on here that could be good for Kirk or anyone else, really, for that matter.
So Kirk and Spock are walking down the hall. They go to the transporter room. Kirk comments to Spock that Gideon is supposed to be a virtual paradise. Spock then talks to Uhura, who gives him the coordinates to beam down to. We see Kirk dematerialize, and then a moment later, he rematerializes on the same transporter pad, it looks like.
Weird.
He looks around a little stunned and calls for Spock and asks why he left his post. When Spock doesn't answer, Kirk goes to the controls and tries to call him again, gets no response. So Kirk leaves the transporter room. Next, we see him on the bridge of the Enterprise. The bridge is empty. Kirk calls to engineering but gets no response. He tries Uhura, bridge personnel, and finally he opens up to the whole crew and gets no response.
So Dana, when I was watching this episode this morning, my wife happened to be in the room during this opening scene, and when Kirk finds the Enterprise completely empty, she said, well, that's one way to save money. Just cut out all the characters. I was like, damn, I wish I would have thought of that joke. Yeah, season 3, it's just like, well, we'll just have one guy on the show for most of the show, and then we don't have to pay people.
So next we see Kirk going down the hallway, kind of cautiously, and then we hear his thoughts. I am alone on the Enterprise. I have searched every area.
How could he have searched every area, Dana? Come on. The Enterprise is huge.
He knows his way around, Dan.
Yeah, but every area?
Every area.
Okay. You think he went into the bathroom where the Alana Troyes was? The Alana Troyes?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do. I'd check the bathrooms first.
Because that's where people hide all the time, really.
Yeah. Or, if they're not under the bed, check the bathrooms.
Yeah, sure.
And you'd think the beds would have to be nailed down anyways.
Nothing is on the ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk has done some nailing down on those beds, though. Sorry.
Yeah, well, he's going to do some more here before the show's over. So he says, I cannot find a trace of the crew or an indication of how its disappearance was managed. The one thing that is obvious is that I suffered a memory lapse, during which time I bruised my arm.
So here's something interesting, Dana. I had a memory lapse of that part of the show. I don't know what happened, because later in the show, when they come back to this arm thing, I had no clue how he got it. It was very weird. I was like, what happened? Did they leave something out? It's weird. So I guess I had a memory lapse.
Yeah. Maybe you were in the transporter as well. And did you wake up with any bruises or something you couldn't explain?
Yeah. But I really can't talk about it.
So then we see Uhura on the bridge as she tells Spock that Gideon is contacting them. On the screen, we see 5 men sitting at a table. They inform Spock that Kirk has not beamed down. And Spock basically says, baloney, I beamed him down myself. So they check the coordinates and they read off this, 80, 24, 67.2, whatever. And Chekhov says the coordinates are right.
Wait.
Chekhov says the coordinates are right.
Yeah, that wasn't, not bad.
Slipped a little bit into Scottish there at the end. So
yeah.
The main Gideon guy says, you are responsible for beaming him down. And Spock says, yeah, no shit. I says, I'm not blaming you. And Spock says, if he can beam down to conduct a search, and the Gideon guy says, no. Your Federation must be aware of our jealous tradition of isolation from all contaminating contacts with the violent nature of planets of other solar systems. So Spock says, Your Excellency, the wars between opposing star systems no longer prevail in our galaxy.
Not true. Right? That's not true.
Yeah. So he says, if you will grant permission, the Gideon guy cuts him off and says, they will conduct a search for Kirk themselves. So Spock orders Uhura to contact Starfleet and appraise them of the situation. Spock suggests that they start scanning for the captain in a 360-degree pattern.
Institute a sensor scan, 360 degrees, 1 degree at a time.
But, sir, that could take years.
Then the sooner you begin, the better.
So we switch back to Kirk on the empty ship. He looks down the hall and sees a woman. And he's thinking, cha-ching. Yeah,
She was, though, Dana, doing a bit of a weird dancey thing. I almost had a mime, just a slight bit of a mime feeling. Just for a moment, though.
Yeah, it was like interpretive dance kind of a thing. Yeah,
That's a better way to put it. Yeah.
She had this purple outfit with a blue bikini outline to it. And Kirk approaches her and says, who are you? And she says, I am O'Donna.
Madonna? Madonna was on the ship?
O'Donna.
Oh.
This is her great granddaughter.
Irish granddaughter. O'Donna.
Kirk introduces himself and she says, this is your ship? And Kirk explains that he is the captain. She starts to turn away and he grabs her arm. He asks who brought her here. And she says she doesn't know. She explains, I was standing in a large auditorium crowded with people. Thousands pressed against me. I could hardly breathe. I was fighting for oxygen, screaming to get out. Then she looks a little frightened, so Kirk says, don't be afraid. Adana looks at Kirk and says, I'm not afraid, but you are troubled. Back on the regular Enterprise, I don't know what else to call it, Spock asks Uhura if Starfleet has responded, and she says they referred us to the Federation, and the Federation said they need to go through Starfleet.
Don't you hate it when that happens, Dana? You got a problem, you make a phone call, and oh yeah, you need to talk to these people. Then you talk to those people, and they say, no, you need to talk to the other people, the people who you just talked to. God, I hate that.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's like a master plan to drive you crazy.
It is, yeah.
So they kind of look down at the ship's chronometer. It says stardate 5423.4, and the time is 10:28 and 28 seconds. We pull back and see Kirk and O'Donna on the bridge. Kirk says, 9 minutes of my life had been lost between the time I tried to beam down to get in and the time I found myself here.
How does he know that?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a stopwatch. What's going on there?
He doesn't wear a watch.
No, he doesn't. No.
But he can't account for 9 minutes.
Well, neither could Bill Cosby's dates, so.
Kirk says, I tried to beam down to Gideon, and something happened. So he switches on the view screen. Now we see a star field. Kirk says, we are no longer over Gideon. So he can recognize areas just by the star field, Dan?
Yeah, he can, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like being lost in the woods and you look up and see the Big Dipper and go, oh, okay, I know where to find the North Star and that type of thing.
I suppose, yeah. If you're in the woods, though, you might not be able to see the stars because, you're in the woods.
Well, let me put it this way. If you're in the woods and you come to a clearing and can see the sky.
That's better, yeah. Yeah, if it's not cloudy and it's at night.
It's going to say it is dark, yeah. So.
Yeah, he knows his way around space and other places.
So he takes O'Donna by the shoulders and turns her toward him. And says, O'Donna, you must realize that we're not here by accident.
I thought he was going to hit her, Dana.
Yeah, I mean, he turned her around sharply.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
He says, some force, some intelligence has arranged this for a purpose.
Not the writer, but...
Or the producers, yeah.
Right.
O'Donna says, Captain, before I said I wasn't afraid. Now I am.
God.
Once again, we're back to the Shakespeare clan. So
yeah.
So we go back to the crew on the bridge of the regular Enterprise, and we see they are still circling the planet. The Gideon guy is on the main screen and says, we have completed a search, and Captain Kirk is not on our planet.
Wow, man, they did that fast, like the entire planet.
Well, they probably went, well, he's supposed to beam down here, so it's got to be someplace close. Couldn't be too far away. And they probably put out a call, said, hey, if you, send out a picture of him on a milk carton.
Yeah, that's how they probably would have done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the planet's big. I mean, it's not a small planet. Like, they'd have to look in a lot of places.
Like the bathrooms.
Or women's bedrooms,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of looking they'd have to do.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So Spock suggests there is a misunderstanding. And the Gideon guy says, I hope you're not trying to create a dispute between the Federation and Gideon. And Spock says, Your Excellency, I am basically a scientist. Clarity of formulation is essential in my profession. And the Gideon guy says,
I'm glad to hear it. Perhaps you could then make greater effort to choose your words more precisely.
No matter what you say, Mr. Spock, he'll twist your meaning.
Yes, he's infuriating, sir. How can you stand it?
So then McCoy says, we do not leave without being absolutely sure of ourselves that everything has been done. McCoy speaks directly to the council and says, now certainly you understand our feelings about that.
Yeah, but Dana, a few episodes ago, McCoy's like, all right, let's go. We've waited 10 minutes. He's not here. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. So the Gideon guy hails Spock like they lost contact. And he's like, Mr. Spock, Mr. Spock.
It's kind of like when someone calls you and you don't want to talk to them. You're like, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I must be in a dead zone. Yeah. Wait, have I said that to you recently, Dana? I think it might have.
Not recently. You never call me anymore. But
Dana, our internet connection is breaking up. What did you say? What?
Yeah, exactly. Spock says, I am requesting to beam down. And the Gideon leader stands and says, forgive me, Mr. Spock. No criticism of your equipment was intended, but it has sent your captain on some strange journey. A safe one, we all still hope. So Scotty gets all upset, saying, the transporter was fine. It was in perfect working condition. Spock orders Scotty to the transporter room to await his orders, like he's being sent to the corner or something. And Scotty storms off. He's like,
yeah, he's mumbling on his way to the turbolift. I like that part. That was pretty good.
So again, the Gideon leader says he wasn't able to make out that conversation. And Spock says, Your Excellency, the ship's engineer was explaining that the malfunction has now been repaired. I, therefore, request permission to beam down to your council chamber. And the Gideon leader seems to acquiesce, and then he says, You are a very persistent fellow, Mr. Spock. Very well, then. You shall test the skill of your excitable repairman. Whew, good thing Scotty wasn't there.
No kidding. He would have just fired some photon torpedoes without even asking.
Yeah, I'll give you a repairman. Repair this, you stupid bloke. So he adds, we cannot risk further incidents. You will therefore transport a member of my staff to your ship. Let us see if that works. Spock reports the test was successful. Spock says he wants to beam down, and the Gideon leader says he will take that up at the next council meeting and cuts the transmission. This guy's kind of a dick. Spock tells Scotty to beam the guy back to Gideon. I would have said, like, beam him out in space.
Yeah, right in space. Yeah.
Yeah. And beam him like 2,000 feet over the council chamber so he just drops in.
Or beam him like, how about beam him right into the desk where they're sitting?
Oh, yeah.
So he becomes part of the desk. That would be good.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
You've got kind of a twisted mind.
Let's see. We're only 8 episodes from the end of this, and you're just figuring that out?
No, I'm just repeating it again.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So McCoy says, just when I thought you might have a new career as a diplomat, Mr. Spock. Spock says, don't give up hope. And he turns to Uhura and tells her to demand an answer from Starfleet to allow them to beam down to search for the captain. So we see Uhura flip a switch and she hails Starfleet command. We pull back from the panel and see Kirk is at the communication station on the empty ship. So Kirk moves closer to the main screen. She stares at the screen. She says, so quiet. And Kirk sits down on a step and she sits next to him. Kirk looks at her and says, it is very beautiful. He's already getting the moves on.
Oh, he totally was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can't find, 429 people, but I'll find some time to make time here.
Yeah.
She asks, how long can it last?
Well, 2 minutes probably.
He says, yeah, my best is about 3 minutes, but we'll see what we can do. So Kirk says, we have power and food to feed 430 people for 5 years. She says forever, like it's the best thing in the world. And she says, all my life I've dreamed of being alone. She explains that her planet is overcrowded. There is no space, no beach, no garden or house that is not filled with people. We would be willing to die for some time alone. Kirk gets closer to her and asks, who sent you here? And she says, no one. And Kirk asks, have you come to kill? Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from? Yeah.
And he holds her face in his hands, says, did you come to die? She says, I don't know. I don't care. And she gets this look on her face like she's going to kiss Kirk. She says, I only know I'm here. I only know I'm happy. And then, Dan, they kiss.
No, they don't. Really?
You didn't see that coming, did you?
Yeah, never in a million years did I see that coming.
While they're kissing, we kind of pull back and see the view screen, and there's dozens of faces appear, and they all look kind of green.
Yeah, weird.
And they watch as Kirk breaks the kiss and slowly leads O'Donnell away. So next thing we see is Kirk and O'Donnell walking down the hall. Kirk says he needs to go to the bathroom. No, I'm sorry. Kirk says he needs to go to the medical lab to get something for the bruise on his arm.
See, this is the part, Dana, that I heard this and I was like, where did he get that? Well, I thought it was like completely unexplained, but it's obvious that I just fell asleep, apparently, for a couple minutes in the first part of the show because they explain it in that first part.
Yeah, you had 9 minutes. You can't explain what happened to him.
At least 9 minutes. I could have been longer.
And she asks, what will happen to you if you don't fix it? Will you die? And Kirk laughs a little and tells her no, and he doesn't remember how it happened, but then adds, it will heal on its own. So they go into this room, and I'm guessing it's like the observation deck. And he goes to open the shutter there, but it doesn't open. So he does a manual override, and the window opens. And we see a whole bunch of people just staring in the window.
Once again, kind of like your neighborhood, probably.
So Kirk grabs her to protect her.
Yeah, it's weird.
The people disappear, and we see the stars again.
I can't even begin to tell you how annoyed I am right now. Not at you. not at you. You're just a messenger. But come on, Dana. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And she says, if we're moving through space, there can't be people out there. And that's when Kirk says it might be a mirage. She asks, do you mean that we're going mad? Kirk kind of shrugs, or some power is creating the illusion in our minds that we are somewhere near your planet. But why?
Yeah, why? Why, Dana?
Yeah, that's why I was asking why I turned this on. And so anyway, where were we?
The end, Dana. That's how this episode ends.
Kirk turns away from her and looks at the window. He says, I think I have an idea. So that we won't keep trying to find out where we are, that we'll be content to stay here.
Oh, okay. How much more of this do we have to go through before we get to the end? Are we close? Are we close to the end, Dana?
Halfway, I think.
All right, halfway. We'll speed it along.
Okay. O'Donnell says, oh, be content. And Kirk turns back to her and grabs her by the shoulders again. Be content? Be content? Then he's like, not until I find out what happened to my crew. Are they dead? She says, I don't know. Did you kill them so you could have the ship to yourself? O'Donnell puts her hands on his shoulders and says something's happening to me. I've never felt this before. And Kirk says, I've never felt this before. Seriously, this is exactly what the conversation was. O'Donnell says, is this the way one looks when one is developing a sickness? And Kirk says, there's no sickness on your planet, remember? They must have had this discussion off screen. Because I don't remember this.
Shatner was probably like, hold on a second. I don't see anything in here about the, what is going on? Just pretend that they don't have any, sickness. Okay, they don't have any sickness on your planet. You don't have any sickness on your planet.
Yeah.
That's how it went.
Yeah, I believe it. So O'Donnell says, now there will be sickness. There will be death. And she passes out, and Kirk picks her up in his arms. Kirk is carrying O'Donnell down the hall when we hear a door open, and the Gideon leader steps out with two guys behind him.
What?
Kirk looks stunned.
How did that happen?
Yeah, never would have saw this coming. So Kirk says, Hoden. And Hoden says, yes, Captain Kirk, our experiment has passed the first stage. At that point, I would have dropped the girl and kicked this guy in the balls.
Yeah, what is he doing?
So Kirk tries to move past them to sickbay. He says, let me in there. I can help her. And Hoden says, we have no need of any of your medicines. And Kirk says, but she's ill. Hoden says, and we are grateful to you for her illness. You have done well.
Oh, wait, hold on. So there was a part that we didn't see where they were in his quarters and he made her ill. How did he... What type of illness is it, Dana? Is it I guess I have to ask it just bluntly. Is it a sexually transmitted disease or infection? Or is it she just sick?
I think she's just sick.
Because some time has passed with these two together, right?
Yeah.
And they were in his quarters at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kirk hands O'Donnell over to Hoden, and she smiles in Hoden's arms. Guard the captain well. We shall need him for a long time. Next we see some quarters, and O'Donnell is lying on the bed. I don't know if this is Kirk's quarters, if it's Spock's.
I think it was Kirk's, yeah. I think so. Someone will tell us, if we got that wrong or any grammar in this episode. You don't mean whose court is it? Is it?
You mean whom's?
Whom's quarters is it, Dana? Look, hold on. I'm going back to the whole thing, okay?
Okay, I'm going to have some more wine. Thanks.
Dana, it was a fucking typo. This really was a typo. Everywhere else we said whom, Dana. Everywhere else,
Yeah, I'm with you. I got your back.
Who the fuck does this guy think? Whom the fuck does this guy think he is? Sorry. Okay, let's continue on because I'm just getting all upset now, Dana. Just all upset.
O'Donnell's lying on a bed in what appears to be Kirk's quarters.
Yeah, sure, she is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hoden is standing over her, and she asks, how long will it last? He says, it depends on the one infected. She says, how will you know when I am to die? Hoden says, your body temperature will be very great. You will see us, but you will not know who we are. She's like, I wish I didn't know who you are now.
Wish I didn't know who the writer was.
She says, I must see him before then, Father. He says, no.
Do you feel great pain?
Yes. In my arms and thighs.
So, Dana, how did she get pain in her thighs?
All the walking around they did on the bridge, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and all over the ship, really, right? Yeah, they were doing that all over the ship. Yeah, okay, I can understand that. Okay.
Hoden exits the room and Kirk asks to see her. Hoden says no. Kirk says, you don't know what she might have. Hoden says she has vegan coramingonitis or something like that.
This is why you shouldn't be a vegan, Dana.
Yeah. It's like, well, give her some fucking meat. I tried to give her some meat earlier.
God, how can I put that in? So I can't put any of this in, Dana. Come on. It's not fair. Oh, God.
Kirk says it's very rare and always fatal if not treated within 24 hours. He says, I know, it almost killed me.
I had meningitis as a kid, Dana.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was in the hospital for like a month. Yeah, I almost died.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
This explains a lot. Run a high fever for a long time? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're not still contagious or anything, are you?
Yeah, when people came in to visit me, they had to be in like total hazmat suits because it's very contagious.
Really?
Like I said, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. And then I was reading a science fiction book. Oh, you'll like this story. I was reading a science fiction book. It was in a Catholic hospital because I was totally into science fiction even as a kid. A nun comes by and she's like, would you like a book to read? And I said, sister, I have a book. I'm reading this science fiction book. And she said, how about the Bible? I said, no, thank you, sister. I've got a book to read. The good part, I survived, Dana.
Yeah.
No lingering effects as far as I could tell.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as far as you can tell.
Are we near the end of this fucking thing yet, Dana? We got to be close, right?
No. We're getting closer. Yeah. Kirk had just told him that he had vegan coramingonitis.
Okay.
And
I'm sure that's what it was.
And he says it almost killed him. And Hoden says, yes, our prime minister learned about you during our negotiations. That's why we brought you here.
Dana, no. I do not agree with this as being even plausible.
It's in the script, Dan. I don't know what to
How do you figure this? Okay, the ambassador from Gideon is like meeting with some people at United Federation of Planets, right? They're negotiating, right? Hey, got any starships in this area where maybe the captain has this, toe jam meningitis thing or whatever it's called? Oh, yeah, by the way, Kirk. Oh, who was that again? Kirk, okay, let me write that down.
Just curious. Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense, Dana. I'm really getting angry. I'm getting angry now, Dana. Not just annoyed. I'm actually getting angry.
Hold on to that. So Kirk checks his arm and says, that's how my arm got hurt. And Hoden says, yes, as O'Donnell told you, we have no need for medical practitioners here. Our apologies. We were unforgivably awkward to have hurt you.
No, wait, hold on. So in the 9 minutes, this is what I'm trying to figure out. In the 9 minutes that he lost, he was passed out or they had him under or something, right? They scratched his arm?
Or like tried to draw blood from him or something, not knowing that he was going to make his own donation to her later.
Okay, so now it makes all total sense. I'm sorry that I put this episode down earlier because now it's a great episode. It all makes sense, Dana.
Wow. Yeah, I think your meningitis came back. So Kirk tries to push past the guards to get in the room, and a fight breaks out. Kirk does pretty well. Finally, one of the guards hits him from behind and restrains him, and the other guard punches him. And Kirk says, you're mad. And Hoden says, no, we are desperate.
Okay, that was a good line.
So back on the real Enterprise, McCoy says, I don't understand how Starfleet can deny permission to beam down to search for the captain. And Spock says, unfortunately, I must violate a direct order from Starfleet. Next, we see Spock beam down into the transporter room where Kirk had beamed down. He leaves the transporter room and is using the tricorder to locate Kirk. In the council chamber, Kirk is seated at the table. He says, you lied to the Federation about your planet being a paradise. And Hoden says, the planet has always been germ-free. The lifespan constantly increased. Death became almost unknown to us. The birth rate continued to rise, and the population grew until Gideon is encased in a living mass we can find no rest in, no peace, no joy.
Then why haven't you introduced any of the new techniques to sterilize men and women?
Every organ renews itself. It would be impossible.
Then let your people learn about the devices to safely prevent conception. The Federation will provide anything you need.
Hoden argues that essentially every sperm is sacred, life in every form. It is against our tradition, against our very nature. We simply could not do it. Kirk says, yet you can kill a young girl. And Holden says, we are trying to readjust the whole society by introducing a virus. So we see Spock coming down the hall. He comes up behind the two guards. He does the Vulcan nerve pitch on one, and the other one turns and goes to slug him. Spock just takes him by the arm and throws him down the hall.
Why didn't he do the double nerve pinch?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Yeah, he did that in Whom Gods Destroy.
Who? Gods Destroy? No, Whom. Right, Whom, yeah.
Then Spock enters the quarters and looks at Holden and says, Your Excellency. And he looks at Kirk and says, Captain, you're looking well. Kirk says, Mr. Spock, we have a patient for Dr. McCoy. Have Scotty beam us up. Next thing we see is Kirk and McCoy standing by O'Donnell on a medical bed. McCoy says, that was close, but you made it. And she is smiling and asks, am I cured? And McCoy says, just like the captain. McCoy walks away and she apologizes for deceiving Kirk. And she says, you are no longer needed on Gideon. I can take your place there.
No, hold on. So she knew the whole time?
Yeah.
It was a ruse, Dana.
She was part of the plan.
But she knew the whole time. She didn't have amnesia or, like she was fake. She was faking that.
Yeah, she knew.
Was she faking everything she did with Kirk?
I doubt it. So Kirk says, if that's what you really want to do, and she smiles at him and says, this is what I must do. I am needed there now. Kirk says, well, you're needed everywhere, O'Donnell. What's that mean?
I have no idea what that means, Dana. I don't know.
O'Donnell says, are you going to stay on the ship? And Kirk replies, yes, O'Donnell, I have to. They stare at each other, and then Kirk pushes the intercom button and says, one to beam down to Gideon. And she says, I will miss you, Captain James Kirk. They stare at each other, and they smile. And Dan, that's how the show ends.
Dana, there are a few episodes in this entire series where I've been so thankful that it has ended, but this is one of them, I got to tell you. So, Dana, you have some information about this episode that you want to share.
Yeah, Dan. Sharon Acker, she's the one that played O'Donnell. In 1969, she was presented as the first film star of Tomorrow by the Motion Picture Exhibitors of Canada.
What? What does that mean?
It means like the next big star coming out of Canada.
Were there ever any big stars that came out of Canada?
Christopher Plummer.
William Shatner. James Doohan. John Candy.
Eugene Levy.
A bunch of the Second City people, yeah.
So anyway, it seemed like a big deal. As it was, she mostly worked in TV. She shows up in Gunsmoke, Marcus Welby, MD, Mission Impossible, Wild Wild West. And she appeared in a few, you might say, undistinguished movies.
Oh, I thought you were going to say she was in some of those, movies that some of the other female actors were in.
No, they were getting, better actors at this point.
Well, it's debatable.
She will always be remembered for her role as Lee Marvin's ex-wife in John Borman's classic Point Blank. She had, like I said, she mostly worked through TV. She passed away in 2023 at age 87. Do you have anything you want to share about this episode, Dan?
Yeah, Dana, this episode was co-written by Stanley Adams. Now, that name may be familiar to you. Stanley Adams previously played Cyrano Jones in The Trouble with Tribbles, the really annoying, salesman guy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, reportedly, Adams was deeply concerned about the issue of overpopulation and had some casual discussions with Gene Roddenberry during the production of The Trouble with Tribbles. And, during those discussions, he suggested that Star Trek do an episode about this idea of overpopulation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, crazy. That's all I have, though, Dan.
Dan, do you want to discuss themes and dilemmas?
Yeah, let's do it. One of the dilemmas or themes in this episode, Dana, for me was overpopulation. We already know that the co-author of the episode, Stanley Adams, was interested in this subject. In 1969, Dana, the population of the Earth was 3.6 billion people. Today, it's over 8 billion. So he wasn't wrong to be concerned about it. However, the rate of growth has shrunk from 2.1% per year in 1969 to under 1% today.
Wow.
But it really begs the question, what will happen when there are too many people, Dana? What happens when everyone can't be fed or there isn't enough water? In some places, that's already the case. How about you? What about a theme or dilemma?
I was thinking, what kind of sacrifice is needed to get everyone on board with saving society? I mean, several years ago, China went to the, was it one child per family? People have made attempts, but I've read not too long ago that whole idea was abandoned. Moreover, do people have to die to make a point? I mean, is it worth it to have somebody be a martyr?
I almost died watching this episode, Dana, and that would have made a point.
But I have a greater question, Dan. Is what Kirk did, is it in violation of the Prime Directive? Okay, why don't we move on to the best and worst? Dan, do you have any best parts of this show?
Yeah, Dana, I do have a best part. Scotty getting all bent out of shape and mumbling to himself as he leaves the bridge when Spock tells him to go to the transporter room. Classic Scotty, Dana. How about you, a best part?
Mine's about Spock. Spock being in charge, and McCoy doesn't give him a constant rash of shit. Do you have another best part for us, Dan?
Dana, this goes to the violation of the Prime Directive. I don't think Kirk violated it. Spock definitely did. He beamed down to the planet against the explicit direction of the Gideon Council, and that means I only need one more to double my popcorn win, Dana. So for me, that's a best part. How about a best part for you? I guess we're going to have to debate that one later, but how about a best part for you, Dana?
The fact that Spock did not violate the Prime Directive. No, Spock violating a Starfleet order to save Kirk. I like that he was willing to take that on his shoulders. What about a worse part for you, Dan?
It makes no sense why the Gideons would or could build a replica of the entire ship, Dana, the entire ship. How about for you, a worse part?
Well, it's along similar lines, but if Kirk is actually that infectious, wouldn't he be unable to beam down to any planet? I mean, wouldn't he be like a living, walking biohazard?
He already is, but yeah.
Yeah, in a different way. Do you have another worst part, Dan?
The whole premise, Dana. No, I think I've said it all. How about you?
The speech that Houghton gives about life. It goes on, and it's just, he's got an answer for everything. That pretty soon you're not going to love life when everybody's like trampling one another.
So, Dana, what happened on this date in history?
Dan, this first aired on January 17th, 1969. The number one song in the U.S. was I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye. And then the number one song in the U.K. was Obla Di Obla Da by Marmalade. Also, for the first time in history of human spaceflight, space travelers returned to Earth in a different spacecraft than the one they had departed upon.
What?
Yeah. Prior to this, astronauts had always come back in the same vehicle they had started with. Alexei, Russian guy, and Yevgeny, also a Russian guy. Sent up on a Soyuz 5, landed safely along with Vladimir Shadilov in a Soyuz 4 in the Kazakh SSR, about 25 miles northwest of Karaganda, now Kwaraganda of the Republic of Kazakhstan.
You know the crazy thing, though, Dana? And I don't know how, these became so different, but Americans, when they'd go into space and come back, they'd splash down in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
But the Russians, they would land on land, like out in the Russian steppe.
I don't know. Hitting water somehow seems better unless you sink. Dan, the Great Molasses Flood of 1919.
Ah, yeah. 50th anniversary, right?
Yeah, it was actually on January 15th. Sugary sweet molasses turned deadly when a holding tank burst and sent 2.3 million gallons of sticky liquid sweeping through the streets of Boston. The source of what became known as the Great Molasses Flood was a 50-foot tall steel holding tank located on Commercial Street in Boston's North End. The contents were the property of the United States Industrial Alcohol, which took regular shipments of molasses from the Caribbean and used them to produce alcohol for liquor and munitions manufacturing.
What? There's alcohol and munitions? I don't know. It gives a whole new meaning to a shot.
At around 12:40, the mid-afternoon calm was broken by the sound of a metallic roar. Before residents had time to register what was happening, the recently refilled molasses tank ripped wide open and unleashed 2.3 million gallons of dark brown sludge. The 15-foot wall of syrup cascaded over Commercial Street at 35 miles per hour.
Wow.
Obliterating all people, horses, buildings, and electrical poles in its path.
Wow. That's horrible.
The human toll would eventually climb to 21 dead and another 150 injured.
Wow. They said that for years afterwards, when the weather would get hot, people would still smell molasses because it got into everything, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Everything, yeah. Well, it's horrible. Well, a good friend of mine, Bonnie from Portland, Oregon, sent that to us, and we thank her for sending that in.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was a really interesting story. Much more interesting than the one we just watched. Also on January 18th, 1969, Dave Bautista, American professional wrestler, mixed martial artist, and actor, was born in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, wasn't he in Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah. And then finally, thought I'd throw this in for you. January 20th, Richard Nixon was sworn in as the 37th president.
I am not a crook.
That's a pretty good impersonation, really.
This podcast is being brought to you by North Shore Adult Diapers. North Shore offers reassuringly strong protection for even the heaviest control problems and can keep you dry and confident for up to 12 hours, so you can live your life with freedom and dignity.
Whether you are attending a baseball game, having dinner with friends, getting on a plane, or just sitting back listening to the Damnit Jim podcast, the last thing you want to worry about is incontinence. Don't be trapped at home. Be secure in knowing that North Shore has you covered with a true quality product.
You can even put North Shore's products to the test by requesting up to 6 product samples. And Dana, our listeners can use the code KIRK at checkout to receive $10 off their next order over $50. Go to northshore.com today to place your order or request product samples. This offer can be used only once per customer and may not be combined with other offers. Dana, how about if we move on to the counts?
Yes, Dan.
Dana, how about the dead crewman count?
0, Dan. We are still stuck at 49.5.
The shirtless Kirk Ripshirt Kirk count?
0. I thought we were going to get one this week, but we're still at 20.
The he's dead count?
If only they could have said this about the writer, but we didn't get any this week, so we are still at 22.
I think he is probably dead, though, don't you think?
Yeah, well, I hope so. He's probably old, and miserable. So
I'm a doctor, not a fill in the blank.
This week we had 0, Dan, and we are still at 9.
And the supreme being count?
Nothing here. We are at 12.
We did get a violation of the Prime Directive. Dana, how many did we have this week?
Dan, I thought we were going to discuss this.
Oh, yeah, okay. Dana, how about the violation of the Prime Directive count?
Dan, I have 0. But I did ask that question, is this a violation of the Prime Directive?
Yes, it is. And here's why. Spock beamed down against the wishes of the Gideon Council. Obviously, it was a violation of the Prime Directive.
I don't know. I've been a while since I've read through what the Prime Directive all entails. But I think if there's harm, you're protecting someone from harm, I think it's okay.
Yeah, Dana, this was not a violation of the Prime Directive. I'm just trying to get my popcorn. Damn it. No, okay. I agree. There was no violation because they obviously knew about space, the Gideons did. They knew there were other societies and planets and space travel. So it wasn't a violation, Dana, but it means I've only got, how many more episodes, Dana, do we have?
8 episodes.
I only got 8 more episodes, Dana, to get some violations going here, or I don't get my popcorn.
Oh, there's going to be some violations. Might just not be of the Prime Directive. So,
okay. So this week we do have 0, Dana. What are we stuck at?
We are still at 12, Dan.
All right. How about taking over the Enterprise count?
Nothing this week. We were at 17.
And finally, who's commanding the Enterprise?
We had 2 this week, Dan. Scotty and Spock. And so that pushes us up over 50. We are now at 51.
Well, Dana, just to be blunt, this episode sucked. It was horrible from the start to the finish. I found very little in this episode to be redeeming, with the exception of the idea of, yes, overpopulation on the planet is, can be dangerous to us as a species. I get all that. But, God, Dana, the writing in this one, just horrible. The premise, stupid. Made no sense to me, Dana. How about you?
Yeah, Dan, there were a lot of plot holes. There was some just silly things in it. I wanted to like this one more than I did, but they made it hard, to really like this.
Dana, whom would find this episode even fun to watch, Dana? I don't know, maybe like a professor of English someplace? I'm not sure.
I'm sure we'll hear from several of our listeners how much they enjoyed this episode. So,
well, Dana, even with all that being said, I did have a great time with this episode. We still have some more polo shirts to give away, though, don't we?
Yeah, don't forget that if you call and leave a message about the podcast, about the shows we're reviewing, and leave your address, we will actually send you a Damnit Jim polo shirt.
You probably should send your shirt size too. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Yeah, we are limited on shirt sizes. I think we've just got a couple of XLs left for men and a couple of larges left. And then women's are large and medium.
So for those people who called this week, please give us another call or send us an email. Give us your name and tell us what size you need. We already have your addresses. We're going to get those out to you as soon as we can.
If it doesn't fit you, fit somebody in your family and make a nice birthday or Christmas present, something like that.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be great. Can you imagine getting that as a present?
Wow.
Nothing says I love you like a Damnit Jim podcast polo shirt. All right, Dana, I had a great time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Dan, it's always fun to sit and talk with you about Star Trek. And this was no exception. We did laugh quite a bit. Dan, what do we have next week?
Dana, next week is That Whom Survives. No, sorry. That Which Survives, Dana.
Well, it might be Whom Survives. So let's just see if we can make it through it. And thanks again to everybody who did write in. There was a lot of messages this week, and we really appreciate it. Our fan base is growing quite rapidly, it seems. So keep spreading the word, and thanks again for listening.
And thanks to our new sponsor, North Shore Adult Diapers.
Until we meet again, live long and prosper.
Thanks once again for listening to Damnit Jim, the podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Please send us an email at damnitjimpodcast@gmail.com or join the discussion on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or X. You can also call the Damnit Jim Hotline at 509-676-6298. Enjoy the rest of your week, and as always, remember to live long and prosper. This has been a Ramble Jar production.